Continuing on with the Clone Wars, I hopped on over to the Pantoran Perception arc. Season 1, Episode 15, Trespass, and Season 3, Episode 4, Sphere of Influence. Trespass. First of all, I love the look of this episode. For some reason, the snow, the frigid look of it, the muffled speech underneath some face-covering cloth, the high-intensity wind, it just makes for a setting that I like. The gist of the story is that Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent out to investigate the disappearance of a security force, and they get stuck in the middle of a conflict between two opposing forces. The inhabitants of this snowy, icy planet are under threat by the folks who live on a nearby moon. One of my favorite parts of this episode was when they're going to investigate the Republic base, and there are a ton of dead clone troopers. Their helmets are on sticks. Basically a warning sign, do not trespass. It's eerie as they walk the halls. Later, they find a nearby separatist base and the same thing is going on. Droids are propped up the same way the clones are. Again, a warning sign for any intruder. Stay away. So, Obi-Wan and crew decide that something else is involved here. A third party killed them. Anakin and Obi-Wan discover the inhabitants, the creatures that live there. Primitive, they try to communicate with them despite everyone's best effort. The chairman, an arrogant, egomaniacal, wannabe tough guy douche, refuses any kind of peace. He thinks the Tals, the creatures that are native to the planet, shouldn't be considered sentient, says that the planet might as well be desolate of life. The Jedi don't want to interfere, they come in peace. Anakin says they are not going to go to war, but the chairman is stubborn and wants to fight. The wall of Tals sprinting towards the wounded chairman near the end of the episode was awesome, just a kick-ass looking visual. These vulnerable clones and the chairman down there, they're just waiting to get dominated by this huge force coming towards them. It was neat to see. So in the end, what was accomplished? 11 dead, the rest were wounded, all because of some egomaniac. It reminds me of the Carl Sagan quote from Pale Blue Dot. Quote, "The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and in triumph, they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot." Close quote. Ultimately, the chairman dies, and level heads prevail. The final order of the chairman is to wipe out the Tals completely, and that order is ignored. I loved Obi-Wan's monologue at the end of this episode. Now that you've created peace between your people and the Tals, remember one crucial thing. Make it last, Senator. Make it last. And be an example to others, so that not only this war, but every war waged may come to an end as well. Solid. Overall, this episode is pretty great. Peacekeepers trying to keep the peace the best they could, war-hungry invaders, creatures defending their home. I like the episodes that raise questions of morality. After watching Trespass, I hopped on over to Sphere of Influence. This intro had a lot going on. I was like, what's going on? So it all boils down to the fact that a new chairman has been elected, the separatists are offering to help Pantora for their allegiance, and the chairman's two daughters are kidnapped. Okay, there's a blockade around Pantora, and the citizens are getting antsy. Democracy moves too slow, says the chairman. Papa Noida's daughters get kidnapped, Ahsoka is going to go help them, because I guess the Jedi as a whole can't get involved. It's kind of funny how there's a lot of leeway in what the Jedi will and won't get involved in. It's a little loosey-goosey. But Ahsoka gets involved herself, and Anakin is pretty much going to cover for her. Count Dooku offers to find Papa Noida's daughters. The entire episode is a big attempt at a power grab. When the Pantora people refuse to join the Separatists, the chairman's daughters are kidnapped, trying to force his hand into an alliance. But blood is found on an item that was out of place. A blood sample is analyzed, and it comes back with a positive match. Greedo kidnapped Papa Noida's daughters, and they find out that Greedo is on Tatooine. So Papa Noida and his son head to Tatooine, go to Jabba's palace, and try to find Greedo. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely like the first episode more than this one. I understand the message of this, the political back and forth, the chess game of power and persuasion, but the episode, for whatever reason, left me a little bored, and I kind of chuckled at the end. Right before the credits rolled, because it was supposed to be this moment of triumph, as the Trade Federation representative is addressing the Senate and says, "We've agreed to remove the blockade around Pantora." And then the triumphant credits come in. Da-da-da, we won, yay! And I was like, okay. I guess that's good for the people on Pantora if this was real life, but for the audience, not that exciting. We eventually find out that the Trade Federation is behind the kidnapping while Ahsoka and the Senator are hiding on the Trade Federation ship. They hear it all. It's all a plan to get Pantora aligned with the Separatists. There were 3 moments in this episode that I thought were really neat. When Ahsoka is levitating the Senator, keeping them up and out of visibility from the Trade Federation folks, trying to hide basically. And then when Ahsoka tries the Jedi mind trick, only works for her, the Senator can't get through, and then Ahsoka has to go back and say, "You will let both of us through." I thought that was fun. And the third moment that I really liked was the Wild West Cantina Saloon shootout between the bounty hunters and the Pantorans. It reminded me of Westerns, and it actually reminded me a lot of the Raiders of the Lost Ark shootout in Marion's bar. So Papa Nordia confronts Greedo, they get into a scuffle, end up standing in front of Jabba, and Greedo confesses to the whole kidnapping. Everything ends up a-okay in the end, and the War Profiteering Trade Federation is exposed. It's always been funny to me why the Trade Federation has so much power. They've been caught and suspected on corruption forever. It's just funny to me. No one does anything to stop them. Oh well. On to the next arc. HelloGreedo, out.